Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Commissioner Chronicles on the DLF YouTube channel. I am your host, Nathan Powell, and for those that don't know, this is a Commissioner series on the DLF YouTube channel about different league formats, different league rules, and how to implement them as the commissioner. I do a lot of these on my own, but when I need some expert advice on a particular topic, someone who has done something I've never done before, which, I've done a lot, but I've never done what this man has, and I have brought him in for his expertise. I brought on John Bosch this evening to discuss blind bid waiver leagues. So that might sound a little bit crazy. Nathan, you've never done a blind bid waiver league? No, I have never done a blind. I've done plenty of blind bid waiver leagues where that's your waivers throughout the season. I've never done a blind bid waiver league where that's how you do the startup or that's how you do the auction. So, the rookie drafts, rookie auction, whatever it may be. So we'll get into it. But once again, make sure to like and subscribe to the DLF YouTube channel. Get involved, Commissioner Chronicles. If you go to the DLF YouTube page, you can find a list of all of the videos of the Commissioner Chronicles. Make sure you binge listen, as the kids say, and watch all those. All right. So let's get into the show. John Bosch, you have a league. What's the name of the league again?
So the name of the league is Fog of War.
Fog of War, yes.
Courtesy of Ghost. He is the best league namer there is.
Yes. If you are struggling for a name for a league, which I'm upset I didn't know this when I named the league with no name leagues. I'm positive that Ghost could have come up with a better name for the league with no name leagues than the league with no name. But I do like league with no name leagues, so whatever. So the Fog of War is a league that implemented a blind bid waiver process for the startup, and I'm guessing for future rookie drafts as well. So let's just get into it. How did you get the idea, and what are some of the key components that you weren't aware of as you started it?
So the idea for me came from doing blind bid DFS actually on Draft. If you remember that lovely app, RIP. Underdog doesn't have blind bid yet. Hopefully it'll come as Underdog seems to be replacing other things from Draft. But that's what it started with me. Like Draft offered an option where you could do blind bidding every single day, week, whatever you wanted for DFS. So you would blind bid on, your roster, and you would end up with, I think it was 6 players or whatever. You'd go against 4 other people, something like that. And player would get nominated. Everybody would submit their bid. And that's how you would actually build your lineup for the week on Draft in these particular challenges. And I'm not like a big money player for DFS, but I love the strategy of it. And I mean, it kills time. So what else are you going to do? And I loved the blind bid format. I thought, wow, this would be a really fun way to start a Dynasty league. So started talking about it to a couple of people. And Peter Gent actually then suggested Ghost. Had talked about this before because, of course, no idea is original, which is fine. Like, that's great. So then Ghost and I started talking a lot more about it and figuring it out, how to go about doing it. Biggest impediment that I was not prepared for was actually setting it up as the commissioner. You have to individually add every single player to the can't add list on my fantasy league. That's the biggest impediment. And it's still to this day is the biggest impediment. You can't just hit select all and slide them all over to the can't add list.
Okay. So talk about that a little bit. So when you're doing the startup, it's not just, okay, everyone go bid on the 24 players that you want, or everyone go bid on the 30 players you want. It's how you have to curate a specific list of, okay, these are the players that are being blind bid on for this day, and every other player is ineligible to be bid on in the blind bid process. So is that like a nominating process, like a startup auction, or is that just like, oh, we're going by ADP? How did you curate that list each day?
So the league started out as a 56-team league. It's a 4-copy league, so a base 14 league basically. There are 8 divisions at the original, in the original league, 8 divisions of 7. Each day, 2 divisions got to nominate players. So they would put on a Google sheet who they wanted. I would then go to my fantasy league and remove those 14 names off of the can't add list. Then people could actually submit a blind bid for that player, and all 4 copies would go at midnight. I'll tell you what, it was pretty exciting at midnight when that email would come out, because you would just see this list of 56 players won, and you get to see all the pricing, everything. There's no bidding, no draft, or no auction bidding, no drafting, no anything. It's just you look at your 14 players that you have each day, you put in your bid, and whatever happens, happens. And it was pretty wild, some of the price discrepancies, the differences. Sometimes all 4 copies went within a really tight range, and that was always interesting as well. So there were a lot of people that would stay up every night till midnight to see that email come out.
Yeah, it is interesting because typically, obviously, in a 1 copy, normal waiver dynasty league, you're like, okay, do I need to spend like 50% of my budget, or I need to spend 12% of my budget? And then you spend the 50%, and so I'm like, yeah, my max bid was 10%. And you're like, wow, I could have gotten that. I'm sure that the discrepancies aren't that large in the startup type, because you're not spending 50% of your budget on one player. But it is interesting to think about, especially in a 4-copy league, you're like, one person is getting the player for a significantly, or, at least a little bit more expensive than the lowest copy.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And it was, nobody had done really, nobody's experienced in this. If you're an experienced auctioneer, you have an advantage in an auction. Mm-hmm. If you're an experienced drafter, I think you still have some advantage because you're at least kind of prepared and you're ready for, you're ready for what happens when you miss a run, stuff like that. You know how to react and not overreact. In this, nobody really knew what we were doing. You have no way to gauge what you want to spend on Christian McCaffrey. He's just nominated. You have no idea what anybody else is going to spend on him. After a few days, of course, you start to see how much people are spending on each tier and everything. But by that time, a lot of the studs were gone. So there were definitely some bids that probably raised a few eyebrows.
So from a commish standpoint, so far, for those that are interested in doing a blind bid league as a commissioner, you had to put every single player on it. Of course, we cater our commissioner analysis to MFL. So on MFL, you put all the players on the can't add list. Then each day there are a specific number, whatever you choose to do as the commissioner, that are being nominated by everybody in the league. And then you are taking those players off of the can't add list. So you don't have to curate the can't add list each time. It's just you take off the set of 14, the set of 28 players off of the can't add list. So the can't add list stays the same, except for you just take some names off. Yeah,
and the way I set mine up was, or at least the way it's set now. I don't know if it was originally set, because I think I originally had it wrong, and then I realized it was too much work. Originally, I think I said if somebody was not won on their first day, they went back to the can't add list, and then they'd be available at the end of it when everybody comes off. Because as it progressed, it went from 14 a day for the first probably 10 days or something like that. And then it went up to 28 players a day, because then 4 divisions got to nominate. And then after another week or 2 of that, it went to everybody was open, and then it was just open bidding. But what I do now is once a person comes off the can't add list, they stay off of it. I don't put them back on. So I only remove people one time. One little snag you do have to watch for is, as my fantasy league adds players to the database, they immediately are available to be added. Mm-hmm. So I just make sure that everybody in the league knows, don't do that. They have to be a nominated player. And we see somebody tell me, because then I have to slide them over to the can't add list.
That's interesting. Yeah, so that's definitely a big part between February and June.
Yep.
So maybe, and obviously, as big fantasy players as we are, we like to have our startups as early as possible. But if you're doing a blind bid waiver startup, a slight advantage might be waiting until July for that.
Yeah, from a commissioner aspect, for sure. I think we started shortly after the NFL draft, so there were definitely rookies being added over and over and over. Yeah,
I guess one way to easily combat that is just set it so that only veterans are you can set it so only veterans are visible on the waivers, right?
Well, yeah, but I prefer my startups to include the rookies, so I always do it after the NFL draft.
I see. Got it. That makes sense. All right, so Now let's talk about future years. How is the rookie auction dollars, the rookie blind bid dollars? How actually no, well, reverse. Is it bankroll? So if I don't use money in the startup blind bid process, does that startup blind bid now turn basically into blind bid dollars, or is it use it or lose it? How did you go about presenting that?
For me, it's 1 year at a time. So anything that's not used in the initial auction, which is the startup for startup, and then obviously in future years for the big auction is the rookie one, or the big waiver run, I should say. So anything that wasn't used in the initial carried into that season. At the end of the season, it goes to zero. We do have a small in-season run. I think it's after like week 8 or something. This is a best ball league, so you don't set lineups. A lot of the transactions are minimized. You can still trade year round, but waivers only happen one time. You do get a little extra money. That's what the 5th and 6th round picks that you can trade go to your in-season budget, plus whatever you carried over from the previous auction. But then at the end of the season, it goes back to zero and it resets.
Okay. And is it like and then going into future years, is it like a typical rookie auction where like the 101 is worth X amount, 102 is worth less than that, 103 is worth less than that? Yep.
It's a scale all the way down for the league is now up to 70 teams. We actually expanded this year. So there's a 1.70 pick. There's a 1.01 pick. And then, it's 4. I think I have set for 4 rounds equal to rookie, but like, the 4.70 will be worth like one blind bid dollar, and the 101 is worth way, way more. So it's a very large scale. It definitely heavily favors the teams that are bad. I think it's a more aggressive scale than I've used in any of my auction leagues because there's a lot more air in blind bid. I think people definitely put big numbers down. So if you're trying to come back from the bottom, I wanted to give a lot of leeway and a lot of power to do so.
Now, you mentioned that the blind bid does carry over into a mid-season waiver, but overall in the league, does the blind bid process impact any other aspect, any other trades? I guess waivers to an extent. Is the main concept, okay, this is just the startup and then the future rookie auction / drafts, or is it something that is, happening throughout, basically?
So, I mean, the obviously the big blind bid run of the year, whether it be the startup or the rookie free agent one in future years, that's the big event. And that's where, that's really where you're going to build your team. But the trading is extremely active with 56 and now 70 teams. You can usually find trade partners if you want to start building other ways. And the easiest way to do that is by trading your blind bid. That is currency in this league. So right now, we've already switched over to 2021 and everybody has their budget for the bid, for the rookie free agent run. That's already been deposited in everybody's blind bid. So they can trade real easily. You don't have to trade the 101 anymore. You don't have to trade the 217. You can trade 120 blind bid dollars. Everybody can see exactly how much everybody has. It really opens it up for trading, I think, because once it's all converted, everybody can see exactly where they stand, how much they have, everything like that. So for me, I love trading that way. I would much rather have the exact amount being traded than a pick that is going to be worth a range of something.
Got it. And so as far as the rookie, / FA extravaganza, so are the rookies and FAs both bid on at the same time in the blind bid? Okay. And
yeah. I don't separate those. We just do one. And again, I just put same way that the startup was run. I put everybody on the can't add list. And then we do, I think it was like every 2 divisions nominate for, I think you do, so 14 a day for like the first 4 days. And then it's basically open or something like it's a lot smaller because obviously the pool of players is a lot smaller. But it's still extremely exciting. You get a really good 1 week run, which is about what an auction or a draft lasts for a rookie league anyways.
For sure. All right. So is there anything else we haven't hit on that you think is important if little Johnny in Iowa wants to start himself a blind bid startup, what would be your advice to him / what does he need to do in order to do it?
So make sure that you have managers that are flexible and easy to work with. It's not the easiest process. I mean, MFL is available to make it easier. It could not be run on other platforms that I know of. I don't think there's any other platform where you can restrict what players can be added in the same way that you can on My Fantasy League and stuff like that. So definitely use My Fantasy League. If you're going to do it, understand that it is a decent amount of work. I don't ever want to do another one, but I will always want to do this one because it's so much fun. And people seem to really enjoy it. I recommend setting it up as best ball because for me, those are the kinds of leagues that I like at this point. I don't want to have to worry about the other aspects of it. I just want to play this league for this fun aspect of it. This is what I like about it. But I do know other people that do it with a regular league, and they do it's just how they do their startup. It's an extremely fair way to do it. It's way more fair than a draft. That's the most unfair way to start any league. And I think it's actually a little bit more fair than an auction because it takes away some of the advantage that people get just from having the skill of being good at an auction. I mean, that's a skill you can develop by doing a lot of auctions. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you could get good at being a blind bid person, but it's going to take a while, and I don't think there's that many options out there. So I think it kind of levels the playing field and gives everybody a really equal footing to do a startup with.
And the biggest benefit for our friend Dan Saino, there's no redlining in a blind bid.
There is no redlining at all. You will never get mad that somebody outbid you with just 5 seconds left on a clock because there's no clock. The only person you have to blame is yourself.
Except for when they process waivers. So the clock is 11:59.
Yep.
Alrighty, John. Anything to plug before we head out?
Nothing. You can just follow me at John Bosch FF on Twitter. You'll find the list of all the podcasts that I do and everything else, all the leagues that I run and everything like that.
Alrighty, that was awesome. If you want to start a blind bid league, make sure to follow those steps that John laid out and get patient owners. That for anyone starting any sort of weird league, the first rule is patient owners.
Yes, I mean this is one like if something messes up, you want to have a group that's like, okay, let's fix it instead of somebody saying, well, that's not going to benefit me now. And the mess up was in my favor. You got to have people that are like, okay, let's get the league right. We don't want to mess things up.
All right. Now make sure to click that like button, the subscribe button, do what you got to do. Go to the Nice League YouTube and watch Commissioner Chronicles and the rest of our great videos. Thank you guys so much. We'll talk to you guys next time.